Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for taking some time to learn about PolicyMap this afternoon. My name is Betsy Minnick, and I work with PolicyMap's clients who are in public libraries, state libraries, academic libraries, and I am a librarian myself. So hopefully I can give you some insights into how our data and mapping tool can be used by your library and other libraries throughout the United States. I am more than happy to field any questions from you. I will be taking a look at chat, but for now, attendees are in listen-only mode, but I'm happy to hear your input and also get any of your questions both during and after our webinar. To give you a little bit of a background about PolicyMap, PolicyMap was founded in 2007 as a division of Reinvestment Fund. Reinvestment Fund is a nonprofit focused on data-driven solutions for community development. And it was, really a tool that was created to make geographic data more accessible and actionable. It provides an intuitive online mapping platform that integrates thousands of data indicators from public and proprietary resources. And in 2018, PolicyMap became an independent benefit corporation. And we still continue our mission of empowering policymakers, researchers, and organizations, including libraries, with easy-to-use spatial data tools for informed decision-making. The first thing I really wanted to talk about was what public libraries and their patrons can do with PolicyMap. And on a very, very basic basis, the things that can happen is that your patrons can easily create maps of up to 5 layers. They can take a look at trend charts for any of the specific indicators that they're looking at on the map. They can generate reports, including a community profile report, and community profile reports can be generated for specific geographies, for a radius around a specific location, or it can be generated for any area that's drawn on a map. And most importantly, PolicyMap provides your patrons and library staff with thousands of data sets. And as I mentioned before, the data is coming from, well, about 170 different sources and provides access to over 70,000 different indicators. So PolicyMap is already a tool that's in use by hundreds of libraries. And within internal staff and within the people within a library, it's a powerful tool that helps users to support communities. And it provides access to all this rich geographic data for decision-making and research. In this webinar, we'll really explore not only how libraries use PolicyMap to enhance their services and to inform planning, but also to support their patrons. And the number one way they can do this already as a tool for internal users at libraries is that they can use PolicyMap to inform their strategic plans, to assess community needs, to allocate resources, and to guide library initiatives. PolicyMap is a tool often used to inform and enhance collection management. It allows decision makers to identify demographic and socioeconomic trends and to tailor collections to reflect patrons' interests and needs. It also allows programmers to design targeted community programs, develop outreach initiatives based on local data, and it ensures the programs that are being created and held are addressing key community interests and challenges. PolicyMap is a tool for many nonprofits to support grant applications. It's a tremendous tool for data collection, and it would allow users to strengthen funding proposals with credible location-based data to demonstrate community impact. Not only is it a tool for grant applications, but also for grant disbursement, trying to figure out which areas in and around your community or your service areas would benefit most from funding that's found through grants. And what we're really going to focus on today, and what I'm most excited about, is how PolicyMap is a tool that can empower patrons with access to all of this data for their own business planning, for local insights, or for academic research. And don't worry, I'm not going to just talk off of slides for the entire webinar. We will go online and do a live demonstration. The other thing I do want to stress is that if you do not already have access, or if you don't currently have a trial to the PolicyMap platform, you can certainly reach out to us to get set up with one. And I think this slide is really re-emphasizing some of the things that I've talked about before, that PolicyMap is really a great way for any researcher to go to one single source that's already collected data from disparate sources. And the data is cleaned and standardized and all in one place, and be able to pull down that data themselves or view it on a map. And that's really the beauty of it. And I'll talk a lot about the types of data that are available and some of the use cases and applications for this. Some of the ways that library patrons are using PolicyMap data are for things like business planning, exploring issues like public health, understanding workforce characteristics. So PolicyMap is a tool that has key applications for entrepreneurs and small business planning. Using PolicyMap data, users can go ahead and access market data, consumer demographics, and industry trends that will support their business plans. A curious public health researcher can use a PolicyMap to assess community health trends, to guide programming and think about partnerships within a community. Workforce characteristics can allow you to understand employment patterns, and it's really a great help for job seekers or to support workforce development initiatives. We've already mentioned that PolicyMap is a tremendous tool for grant writing. It's also a tremendous tool for student research and homework help, and also the intellectually curious patrons that you have within your service area. These are just a few examples, but it's a great way, for instance, to increase community engagement and using data insights to design, targeted programming or to address any local challenges. And I think we've already covered a lot about who can actually access this. But this is just a sampling of some of the patrons that might need access to an online tool like PolicyMap. One thing that does come up, and as a frequently asked question, and I can reemphasize this at the end, is that through our patron portal, we are offering access both on-site and remotely. So anybody who wants to have access to PolicyMap for your patrons can access it and set that up through IP authentication for on-site and remote access. Oops. Ooh, I'm sorry. Some of the data sources are listed here on this slide, and again, we will happily provide a list of data sources if you are interested in knowing exactly what's there. I'm actually going to have a really exciting announcement about some new and enhanced data sets that we understand will be forthcoming in the near future. But there is a lot of data coming from the census and ACS, of course, but it's not limited to that. You'll find some housing, lending, quality of life data, data related to the economy that will give you information about jobs, unemployment, wages, small businesses within an area, a whole host of data related to education and enrollment and educational attainment, and also data related to health and specific federal guideline data sets. Sorry, I am going the wrong way, user error. I'm going to go ahead and I'd like to jump online and really show you a little bit about the tool, because I do think seeing the data dynamically, the data platform and our data dynamically and in action is really the most helpful way to view it. And when we think about the Patron tool, the Patron tool is basically the same full policy map tool that you'll always have access to as an internal tool. But when we set up access for our library patrons, we actually set up two separate platforms for the library. So there would be one for library staff access and one for patron access. And as I mentioned before, patrons can access PolicyMap remotely while on the library premises with an active library card, but there will be some features and data sets that are restricted due to licensing agreements. Some of the data sets that would be restricted would be things like home sale data that we license from Black Knight, some location data that we license from Data Axle and Nielsen IQ, as well as the maternal vulnerability index. Other limits to patron access would be a patron would not be able to use our self-service address data loader, but that would be available to library staff. And also, patron downloads would be limited compared to the full library staff version. This would ensure that libraries and patrons both have meaningful access to the data, but it also just respects the licensing restrictions. Let's go ahead and let's dig into the platform, and I'll show you a little bit about the tool and how it's used. What you'll note is that PolicyMap is a completely clickable, zoomable map. You can zoom in on any one area and understand exactly what's happening within that area. The categories across the top of your screen are going to show you all the different categories and data sets that are available. You might have noticed if you receive our newsletter that we have recently put out some information about data sets that are available on PolicyMap that will be held and retained within the tool. I just wanted to keep that in mind that, there was a brief period where some federal data sets did go offline, and we do have this data in most cases, especially with the census data going back to the year 2000. So I just wanted to show you, I very simply put population data on the map. We can zoom in and get all the way down to a neighborhood level. We can click on map extent, and this will recalibrate, and it'll allow me to see areas where there's a larger population, where there's a smaller population. I can also, because we're most interested in our libraries, put our libraries on the map. And from here, we can put libraries, we can filter out by the type of library, whether or not we're looking at a central library, the branch, a bookmobile, and understand what's there within a neighborhood. I'll go ahead and take a look at downtown Chicago and understand what's there. If I click on any one of these geographic areas, in this case, we're all the way down to the block group level. We can see trends over time. I can pull out trend charts. I can see a chart that's going to list this, and I can take a look at this, at the block and census tract group and pull out these trend charts, export them, and pull them into any of my work reports, anything that I'm working on. I can always change the geography that I'm viewing. I can take a look at this data on a census tract or zip code area. I can change the time period, and you'll note that we have the most recent ACS data loaded online in PolicyMap right now. So we can see those trends and see exactly what's there. For some, PolicyMap is a great place to just come in and get data that you need. So if it's simply something as simply and easy as finding out a specific population, for instance, where there are a larger number of people between the ages of 15 to 17. Maybe my patron is looking at a business plan and that's his target or her target audience. I can go ahead, isolate those areas and understand those areas. I can also take a look at changes over time. So how has this changed over the past 5 years? I can find those areas where there's been a large growth in the population and pull that out. And I can also download this data very simply and easily. I can choose any one of the variables that's available for each one of these indicators. I can choose to link this with any of the points that are on the map, and I can choose the geography that I want. Maybe I want this available by zip code area. I can change this and I can put in any particular location. Maybe I wanted to take a look at the entire state of Illinois and then download that data, not only as a CSV, but also as a CSV with data specs. And I can have that delivered via email or download it via the browser. So very simple and easy process to pull down data. Also a very simple and easy process to create maps. Some interesting maps that allow you to explore the demographics of a specific area might be data related to predominant race or ethnicity or diversity. I can find out information about the foreign-born population. This is a really interesting one where I can take a look at language spoken. I can exclude English and Spanish and really understand different racial and ethnic enclaves in and around a city, a town, anywhere that I'm looking. And I can understand that relatively easily and see, for this area right around the West Loop branch in Chicago, the predominant language spoken, not including English and Spanish, happens to be Korean or Chinese to the south. In addition to being able to create this single layer map, I can also create maps of up to 5 layers. So I can go in and choose to take a look at median family income. Let's go to a different city and let's take a look at Kansas City. And from here, I can see changes over time, but I can also understand just median family income for areas in and around Kansas City. I can clip out just that particular area that I'm looking at. And I can also create a multi-layer map. So perhaps I'm interested in those areas where there's a higher median family income. And maybe I don't want to just exclude downtown or the city of Kansas City. I can also take a look at information related to consumer spending, where we'll take a look at something like total spending or food away from home, alcohol, education. But we can find an area with a higher spend on food away from home. If I click on any one of these geographies, it's going to show me those areas where it's higher. I can always change my cut points, go a little bit higher. And I can add in other social and economic factors. So maybe I'm interested in home sale data, home value data. And you'll see in many cases, this data is disaggregated by race or by ethnicity. And we can find those areas with a higher home value. And maybe I've found an area that I wanted to think about for site selection. As I'm looking at this, I can click on any one of these areas and I can always get a report for these areas that I have zeroed in on. If I click on Get Report, I can get a community profile report, a community health report, rental housing report, or a home mortgage report. I'll just show you the community profile report. One of the reasons I like to show this report is that it really allows you to see some of the underlying data that's available and here within the PolicyMap platform. When I click on Generate Report, it's going to generate the report for that particular census tract that I just pulled out. It's going to show me population trends. I can see a growth in the population and I can benchmark that to Johnson County and the state of Kansas. I can also understand the racial characteristics of a particular area. I can understand the age distribution, where there's a large percentage of people, or 46% are of working age within this area. Data on income levels, the immigration data from the US Census Bureau, where we can see the percentage and the number of people who are foreign born. We can find information about people who are granted permanent legal residence status. There's data on family and households and household types. And then data on housing counts, the types of housing that's available. It looks like we've hit on a neighborhood where we're primarily looking at single family detached homes. The tenure of the home, vacancy data. This is data that we licensed from a firm called Velasquez, where we can see not only residential, but business vacancies over time, and unemployment data, and then workforce characteristics. So the employment by industry, the people employed in this industry within this particular census tract that we're looking at. So in this case, we have a large percentage, or about a quarter of the population, are employed in professional, scientific, and the technical services industry. So just a nice way to be able to pull this out. And what's also nice is that users can go in and maybe they have a particular area in mind, or a particular site that they're interested in taking a look at. They can always create a custom region. And they can create this custom region very easily by either drawing it on a map, doing a radius around a particular point. I know that our libraries use this as a way to understand their changing service areas, and when the new ACS data is released, it's a great time to take a look at all this data. But you can get that community profile report for, a 3-mile or a 5-mile radius around any point that you look at on the map. So it's a great way to be able to pull down data for a custom region, but also get reports for that region as well. Incidentally, it's worth noting that for many of our libraries, we actually upload boundaries of service areas. So you can see different boundaries and pull down those reports very quickly and easily as you're looking at a map. That's something that wouldn't necessarily be a patron use, but since we're working and speaking among the library community, I thought I'd just mention that at this point. So that's how you create a multi-layer map. You can also note that you can create a multi-layer map and OR that data together, find where maybe 1 or 2 of those conditions exist, but not all 3. But it's a great way to sort of understand a community and be able to layer that and take a look at different factors. Okay, let's go back to our single layer maps and let's explore some of the other ways that PolicyMap might be a really great way for your users to take a look at this data and how they might use it. One of the strengths of a tool like PolicyMap, and let's go and head into, if I could spell it properly, let's go to Baltimore. And here we are looking at the libraries in and around Baltimore. We might have a researcher who's interested in environmental data and finding out about what's happening within a specific area. There's a lot of data right here underneath this quality of life menu that you'll note is easily accessible. We can take a look at data under environmental and disaster risk. You'll see that there's going to be information about brownfields and Superfund sites. There's also going to be data from the EJ screen where we can find information about specific environmental burdens and indicators, socioeconomic indicators. You'll also find information about the CDC's Environmental Justice Index, Zicta ratings. There's the Health and Heat Index available within here. And PolicyMap aims to be really transparent about the data that you're looking at. So if I click on any one of these, it's going to give me particular underlying data that was used to calculate this particular index. So we're going to see that this rank is based on the historical heat and health burden module or the sensitivity module. And if I need more information, I can always click on the I within the legend, and it's going to give me very detailed information. And I can always link directly to the data dictionary to find this more information about any particular data set. So again, we want to and we aim to be very transparent about where the data is coming from, and your users should never have any questions about where the data is available or where we're pulling it from. So underneath the health and heat index, you'll find that. If what I wanted to take a look at was data related to lead exposure, I can look through our menus, but I can also go ahead and take a look at something like lead exposure risk. Again, I can layer this data. Let's take our libraries off the map, where I can choose for this thematic data those areas just with high lead exposure risk. And then I can maybe go ahead and layer this data with areas with lower educational attainment. And I can also take a look at data related to median family income or per capita income. And we can pull this down a bit and understand those areas with a higher percentage of a population with less than a ninth grade education, with high lead exposure risk. And we can really pile it on. There's a lot of data that can be added on here as well. We can take a look at things like brownfields and Superfund sites. So just a great way for someone who might be curious about their community specific issues within the community, being able to pull out that data quickly and easily and publish maps is really helpful. Again, we can pull out this map, publish it, pull it into our research, pull it into our presentations. We can easily cite this data and see exactly where it's coming from. So we do, again, provide a nice tool to be able to cite this. And we even provide a nice tool to be able to go ahead and annotate any of these maps that have been created. So a great way to be able to create maps with meaning and to be able to add this data and understand what's there. Other interesting data sets that might be of use might be data that is of interest to a home buyer or a renter, trying to find information about, number one, the median value within a specific area. Let's go back to a single layer map. And here I can see the median value of the homes. I can also find information about affordability and cost burdens and vacancies. I can see, the homeownership affordability for households earning 50% of area median income, or houses earning 80%. I can also find areas where there are more homeowners who are cost burdened or renters who are cost burdened. Really, really detailed data about specific housing factors. I can find information about residential buildings and quality. There's data on housing quality, lead exposure risk, and and also data about new building permits within specific areas. Under lending, I can find information about banking locations. I can find information about mortgage loans and mortgage loan denials, and even information on unbanked households. And quality of life, there's really a great amount of data that we haven't even scratched the surface on yet, but you'll find information, for instance, about computer and internet access, where there are a large number of communities in and around my service area without computer access. And then I can always look to the helpers or the other stakeholders in the community. So maybe I'm interested in where the schools are in this area. I can put great schools data on the map. I can put data from NCES or the Civil Rights Database collection on the map. And I can filter this out by the grades offered. Maybe I'm interested in, pre-K or kindergarten or the level. Maybe I'm just interested in primary schools. and I can understand, what's there and what resources are there within the area. Here we go. Looks like not much came up that way, but still you can understand information about access to the internet, access to broadband. There's even data with computer and internet access by grade, data on transportation, mode of transportation, vehicles per household, public transit, and even the walkability index is available here. Another fascinating and great data set that we have available is limited supermarket access, where your users can find out areas that are deemed limited supermarket access. This comes from Reinvestment Fund. When we take a look at this, not only can we look at limited supermarket access, but we can also take a look at something like where are the staff retail locations and understand what's there. And we can always filter that out by the store type. Is it a convenience store? Is it a farmer's market, a specialty store? And that way we can understand a little bit better that even though it looked like there was lots of access to supermarkets within this one neighborhood within Baltimore, a good deal of those points were actually going to be convenience stores or other, not necessarily a full service market or a supermarket. It looks like there's just one there where you can pull that out. Under the economy, this is where you're going to find information about specific jobs and industries, employment density, jobs by industry. I can take a look at data related to the infrastructure so we can find information about, again, transportation, energy, computer internet access, and vacancy. And then the workforce characteristics, not only by residents, but also by employment. So what are the workforce characteristics? For annual earnings for a primary job where they're more than $40,000 for workers by educational attainment with some college or associate's degree. So having access to this data is extremely helpful, and I can also share this data. So this is data that can be shared through email. It can be a map that's embedded, or I can share it via social. So really, really a great way to be able to access this data, share this data, and make sure that anybody who has specific questions about the data, you can get them more information as well. Under education, you'll find information about education locations, school enrollment, educational attainment, attainment by race, school district statistics, and school district performance. Again, a great use of information about people who are maybe looking to relocate or looking for a new neighborhood or have more information, need more information about the community that you're working and living and spending time within. The health menu is another great area of strength for PolicyMap. You'll find information about specific health facilities and locations that are available here. You'll find information about vital statistics, life expectancy, finding information neighborhood by neighborhood, a great way to sort of understand the differences around a particular community. You can also find information about specific risk factors related to health. So information about things like alcohol and tobacco use, overweight and obesity rates, information about food and exercise, and also health-related social needs. And then when we're looking at this Patron site, this is one of the data sets that won't be available, but as I mentioned before, would be available to the library proper. So any staff or librarian within your library. One thing I wanted to highlight is that there are a good number of helps available through PolicyMap, and within a 1-hour seminar, there's really not a lot that I can go over. I can't show you the entire platform, but hopefully I can just show you how easy to use a tool like PolicyMap is. And that someone who is not a geographer without any GIS experience could go in there and easily create very beautiful maps and pull them into their work, or easily just access data and a specific fact from multiple sources at once. But I will show you that we have a large number of help documents, and this is something I'm happy to share with any one of you. But for your patrons that might need help navigating through our tool, there's information, step-by-step guides on how to do things like set up a map, how to create a report, how to create a custom region, how to use our multi-layer maps. And when you're in here, you'll get step-by-step guides. We also have a nice video gallery where you can access short videos that explain exactly how to do the things that your patrons might want to do. It's also a great internal training source where you can go in and easily access all of our help. We do offer free training twice per week. So again, your patrons and those who might be especially intellectually curious might want to go in and learn more about the advanced features of PolicyMap, how to use multi-layer maps. They can go ahead and do that. So I just wanted to show you some of the resources that are open here. And in addition to that, there is, for all of you who hopefully love data and information as much as we do at PolicyMap, we have a great blog and a great reference for you to go in and understand when we are adding new data sets, when we have announcements about new data sets. I can tell you that we have worked with a lot of libraries over the past several months who are coming over and using PolicyMap as a tool for patron research. And there are specific data sets that they're really interested in. And our data team is really interested in making sure that we fill the void left by the Gale product that is being sunset. And I was told that I have permission to let anybody here on this session know that we do have plans to add some psychographic data, and that is actually in hand, and hopefully we'll have a great announcement soon. So if that was something that your users who were using demographics now were interested in getting access to, in addition to all of the other data sets that are available on PolicyMap, I think that'll be a great plus. Because when it comes to some of the business data and the business planning data that we talk about, we talked a lot about the demographic data that's available here, but also, the data related to incomes and spending and consumer spending habits, medical spending estimates, also information about housing, and also the data about vacancies. So pairing all that together makes it a really valuable resource and puts it all in one place. We also recently published a newsletter, and within that newsletter, we addressed the fact that some of the federal data sets had temporarily gone offline, and certain ones did not return, and PolicyMap will, aim to always be a repository and a way for people to be able to access that public data. So, as I hopefully showed you, and when you took a look at what I was showing you within a data dictionary, a lot of the data does go back to the early 2000s. We will keep that data and we'll keep it available for our users to be able to have access to. I wanted to open up to any questions that someone might have. I also will make sure that we follow up with a recording after this, but I will drop in my email address. Please feel free to send me a message directly to get more information or to set up a personalized demo to answer any specific questions that you do have. I am more than happy to be here as a resource for you as you try and navigate all of your different choices that you have for mapping tools for your library and resources for your library. Let me just take a quick peek and see if we have any questions here. And I see one question. The reports, police reports, what we have available within PolicyMap is crime data from the FBI Uniform Crime Reports. To be honest, there is a lag time with that, and then you can take a look at your particular municipality or city or area, but it's not as granular as you might like. But the FBI Uniform Crime Reports is the data set that is available. I believe it's here under quality of life. You'll be able to find that under the criminal justice tab, where you'll find information related to violent crime, property crime, hate crime, and then here's another unique data set, which is incarceration rates by place of childhood. So that's what's there. I'm trying to see if I'm missing, other than census data, how often is data updated to use in the mapping? That's a great question, and a question that is, it depends on the data source. So in most cases, as soon as the data is updated, our data team gets to work on it. So, and if there's a lag, they'll get to work on updating that as well. So for instance, we work with the California libraries, and they requested that we update the IMLS data, and we pretty much put that to the top of the queue because we know how important that was for their research. So we try to be very responsive. We try to always add data, but the best place to find that information about the frequency of updates is to go to the data dictionary. I'm going to drop the link to the data dictionary within this chat so you can take a look and see what's there. But we'll show you how far back the data goes, whether or not it's available for download, and how often it's updated, and also the different geographies where it's available. So you'll be able to locate that, see whether or not it's layer data or point level data. That's all available within the data dictionary. Trying to see if I'm missing any other questions. Okay, so I have a question where I'm being asked to describe how we store data. For example, for federal data sets, do you have your own version of that data, or are you relying on live data sets? The data is sitting within our own library. It's cloud-based. We are HIPAA compliant, so we do take that privacy very seriously, but we're holding that data within the cloud. It's data that we've cleaned, curated, standardized, and put into our library. So it is not a live feed. However, when it comes to our data, we do license that either via flat files or through an API, and through the Snowflake marketplace as well. And I'm just making sure I did not miss any questions. I don't think I have. Well, I honestly don't have a whole lot more to add. I could probably go on and on about PolicyMap and the data that's available and how we help libraries. We do try to publish some library-related newsletters and blogs on a regular basis, and we have some really great stories that I can really, lead you to. If you take a look at PolicyMap proper, you can take a look at some of our customer stories and blogs related to libraries and see how we're used at different organizations, nonprofits, commercial enterprises, and also in academics and libraries to be able to really just use real data to make informed decisions and making it easy to use that real data. So I encourage you to take a look at our customer stories. We have some great customer stories from some of your peer institutions. We have a great blog that features the New Jersey State Librarian and how she uses PolicyMap to understand the communities and different libraries around her state and their needs and how they change too. So, take a look at that. I'm happy to send them to you. I'm happy to delve into any specific questions that come up for you as well. So I really appreciate you signing up for our session, for attending our session. And the one thing I don't love about a GoTo webinar is that We can't see each other's faces and talk to each other, but I am available to do that after this session. So please feel free to get back to me and let me know how I can help and how I can help your library. Have a great day. Let me just make sure that I am not missing any more questions. But this concludes our webinar. Feel free to reach out with more questions, and good luck to you, and I hope to hear from you soon. Thanks and have a great day.